Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to Oklahoma On Stage. We really appreciate you joining us. We're right in the middle of our summer series. We've got a lot of guests. We're having a lot of fun, and we hope that you're enjoying it as well. If this is your first time to join us, you can always find us on Facebook and Instagram, and our website is oklahomaonstage.org. There you can find all of our past episodes, a newsletter, as well as monthly calendar events going on all around the state. If you'd like to add something to the calendar, maybe an event, a production, or some auditions, all you have to do is just email us at oklahomaonstage@gmail.com. Also, you can send us any comments or questions that you might have, or you can use that contact form that's right there on the website. We'd like to ask that if you like what you're hearing in our podcast, if you would leave us a rating and a review, that really kind of helps people find us. It also helps our listenership grow. So again, thank you for joining us. Thank you for giving us your patronage, and we hope that you come back again and again. So, hey, now let's get into another great episode.
Oklahoma on stage, the stories come alive with drama, dance, and music. The arts always thrive. From center stage to backstage lore, Oklahoma on stage, there's always something more.
Welcome back to Oklahoma On Stage, where we shine a spotlight on the people and places that make up our community of theater across our great state. Our guest today is a powerhouse behind the spotlight and a guiding voice in Oklahoma's theater and music scene. With commanding performances at Town and Gown Theater and a heartfelt turn as Patsy Cline, she has become a fixture in the community theater, known for bringing stories to life with heart, humor, and unmistakable style. Backed by a master's in music theory and a career in vocal music education, she blends performance and education in ways that resonate far beyond the stage. As music director at St. Andrew's Episcopal Church and a passionate advocate for the arts, her voice has become a signature of storytelling across the state. Today, we explore the melodies that shaped her journey, the creative discipline behind her craft, and the legacy she's helped shape on stage, in song, and in community. Please welcome to the podcast, Ms. Renae Perry. Welcome to the show.
Thanks. Happy to be here.
Hopefully I didn't miss anything there and kind of leave anything out. We can always add more, I'm sure.
Sure.
So, again, welcome to the show. We're just going to dive right in, not waste any time. I always jump into the elephant in the room and just say, hey, how did you get started in theater?
Yeah. When I was in 5th grade, a friend at school mentioned that she was coming to Town and Gown Theater to audition for their production of Meet Me in St. Louis. And I thought that it sounded like a lot of fun. And I had been singing in choirs for a few years before that. And so decided that I wanted to try the stage. And so I came and I auditioned and I did not get cast, but my friend did. So congrats, Devin Kearns. So that was a little depressing. But then after that, I did Missoula Children's Theater just because I kind of decided that it seemed like something I wanted to do. And then I didn't actually do much theater in high school until my senior year when I actually had time to. I was always super involved in music and so didn't really have a ton of opportunities to participate in theater, but did that my senior year of high school and then did my first show at Town and Gown after my freshman year of college in 2012, which was Once Upon a Mattress. And since then, I've been participating here and at a few other theaters ever since.
Actually, good transition into my next question, which was, you've been involved with Town and Gown since 2012. So what keeps bringing you back? Is for those of you who can't see where we're at today, we're actually sitting on stage at Town and Gown, which is a theater in the round, which is a very, very great little black box that I really enjoy coming to. So you've been here since 2012. So what keeps bringing you back to here?
I think it's where I learned theatering, I guess. It's funny. I love that word, theatering. Theatering, yeah. In 2023, I did my first show on a normal proscenium stage. So like the production I did in high school and everything I've done since then has been in the round. It's kind of funny, but the community here is just lovely. Everyone is very talented, very kind. We try really hard to be very welcoming here, and there are a lot of opportunities to get involved in sort of an administrative or leadership capacity. So I've done that over the years, and I just really enjoy working with the people here. I'm from Stillwater. I was born here, so staying in Stillwater and staying plugged into this community has been really nice. So yeah,
cool. So what has been your most memorable role or production, either on stage or behind the scenes?
I'll give you an answer for both of those, I suppose. From an onstage perspective, I think probably always Patsy Cline was the most memorable, just because of the challenge of it all. It's a 2-person show, and when you're Patsy, you're singing the entire time. So the other character is sort of the narrator, Louise, and she's talking, about stories throughout Patsy's life as one of her longtime friends. And I got to play opposite one of my best friends from the theater, Val Thrasher, who was phenomenal. But being Patsy, it's just a whole lot of singing. So I learned 28 Patsy Cline songs, and I led the band as well. I led the music rehearsals and things like that. So it was just a lot. My dad was in the band with me, which was really fun. It was fun to get to do something with my father, but yeah, just being on stage, I had 11 quick changes, which was bonkers. And my changer and our costumer actually is a woman who's a sort of a staple at Town and Gown. Her name's Lucy Robinson. She's 94, I think. She was 92 when we did Patsy.
My goodness.
And so she was helping me quick change. She used to be a quick changer for the Rockettes. So she has a long costuming history that's pretty phenomenal to hear about. But yeah, I think that production was unique and probably the most memorable that I've been a part of on stage. And then off stage, the first show that I directed here was the Addams Family musical in 2018. And I had a very lovely cast, and it was one of those productions that just feels sort of singular and special and in that intangible way that we experience in theater so often. And I was just very proud of sort of what I was able to accomplish. I had no idea what I was doing. They needed somebody to submit a musical that season. I was actually in Texas in graduate school at the time, and so agreed to just move back in with my parents for 3 months and direct a musical at the end of my first year of grad school. So that was a lot of fun, but it was pretty stressful, and we had like I said, phenomenal cast, phenomenal crew, and it went really well. So I think those two would probably be my most memorable, but there are many, many others that I've enjoyed as well.
Okay, so your journey's kind of taken you all over the place. You graduated from Stillwater High School. Did you go to college here at OSU?
Yeah, so I did my undergraduate at OSU in vocal music education, and I graduated in 2016.
And then from there, you headed to Texas.
I did, yes. I did my first year of grad school at UT Austin in their Music and Human Learning program, which is music education, but it's less sort of pedagogical, less teaching about how to teach and more research about music teaching. So they do a lot of really, really cool research where they'll put these very fancy high-tech eye trackers on a conductor while they're conducting a wind ensemble. And so they'll track where they're looking in their score, where they're looking in the parts as they're leading the rehearsal, and code all of that and, gain insights about effective music teaching from the most effective music teachers in the country. So it's a very cool program, but I actually decided to leave after my first year because I took a music theory class at UT Austin that was excellent. And I already knew that I had a strong aptitude for the sort of more analytical academic side of music from my undergrad. And I decided that I really wanted to pursue that subject. And so I was the first teaching assistant in music theory at the University of Texas at Arlington. So that's where I finished up my master's degree and what my master's degree ultimately was in. So yeah, music theory. I taught a sight singing course, sight singing and ear training, which is the bane of most music majors' existence. But it was always my favorite class. So, and really loved it. It was a lot of fun. Yeah.
So what brought you back to Oklahoma?
I sort of realized after finishing my master's degree that academia as sort of an industry, sort of my career prospects just kind of looked pretty bleak. The idea of going on to get my PhD, doing another 5 years of school, 5 years of student loans, to then, be competing with, 100 other music theory PhDs for 20 open positions in the country, and sort of having to live wherever that open position was and not really having any sort of strong, stability or security there it was kind of terrifying to me. So we at that time, they were opening up the McKnight Center on the OSU campus, which they host Broadway shows, they host the New York Philharmonic like every other year, and they've had all of the other major orchestras, Philadelphia Orchestra, Chicago Symphony, things like that. So really, really world-class music and theater productions that just get to come to Stillwater randomly throughout the year. So it's really cool. And they were opening that, in 2019. And I applied there for their education job, which I also did not get, but they hired me to be their box office manager. So for the first year and a half that the McKnight Center was going, I was the box office manager. But of course, we opened in October of 2019. And then in March of 2020, this other really big world event happened that made working in that industry very, very challenging. I think it was, it was a high learning curve to learn about ticketing and ticket sales and dealing with donors and patrons and things like that. Like that already was a lot. And then to have to learn how to refund all of those tickets and tell everyone about the reschedules and, be the person on the phone talking to somebody that's upset about a masking policy and then somebody that's upset about too lenient of masking policies, and just sort of all of that stress was a lot. So I left after a year and a half, but it was a really rewarding job, and the stuff that they do there is incredible, and I still buy tickets every year. So
during the pandemic, how long did the McKnight Center stay closed?
By the time that I left, which was in January of 2021, they had reopened for some like movie things, like some things that they could do easily with social distancing. And then they like started the next season after that at the beginning of 2021 with somewhat regular programming and sort of amped it up from there. So they were closed for about a year and a half, I think, or doing again like social distanced adapted programming.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay, so you've directed, as you said earlier, The Addams Family, now The Drowsy Chaperone, and going into Legally Blonde. What draws you to directing?
I think that over the years, I had a lot of really phenomenal examples of directors and also some not great examples of directors. And I really like affecting positive change. And so there were some things that I thought I could do this well about directing, in terms of assembling a well-balanced crew that was committed to supporting the show from backstage. I felt like I could build a really coherent schedule that was really respectful of our volunteers' time. I think that's one thing about directing that often gets overlooked at the community theater level, is that when you're the director, like if, let's say it's a 10-week rehearsal process and there are 20 people in your cast, and, for 2 hours a night for 5 days a week, so 10 hours a week times 10 weeks, that's 100 hours per cast member times 20 cast members. That's 2,000 hours of people's time that I'm in charge of. And I want to make sure that I am using that as effectively as possible and not wasting people's time. And so building a schedule that is really respectful of my cast members' time and energy, and making sure that if they're called, that they are actively involved in the process, or they only have to wait 10 to 15 minutes before they're actively involved in the process is really important to me. So the sort of type A organizational aspects of community theater directing were the things that I felt really confident that I could do. I was pretty nervous about the more creative aspects of directing, but I think that most of it has come very naturally to me. I still am useless with a drill. I can't make a set happen. Shout outs to Heather Palmer, my stage manager, who is currently building my set in Enid right now. So yeah, I think I love sound design too. So I've gotten more confident in the creative aspects of directing over time, but I mostly just felt like I had the leadership skills to corral everyone and make sure that none of the balls got dropped throughout the process.
So has your directing style evolved during that time?
Yeah, definitely. I think the first 2 shows I directed were musicals, which they always like tell you not to direct a musical for your first show. But that was what I knew. I'd been in one straight play, and it was in high school. It was Antigone, and that was it. And then that's a Greek tragedy, so it's a very unique kind of play. And I was Antigone, so I was just in it. I wasn't helping or assisting in any way. So all I knew at that point was musicals. That's all I had done at Town and Gown. And I had been student teaching at Edmund Memorial, and they had just done Addams Family. And so I knew it was a good fit for our theater and the people that we had at that time. And so that was just what I decided to do. But the thing about musicals is that you're working with a choreographer and a music director. And even though I do a lot of music directing, I try, this is so funny because I'm also music directing drowsy, but I really try not to music direct the shows that I'm directing because it just splits my attention too much and it gets overwhelming. But so much of the musical process is covered by the musical director and the choreographer. As a director, it feels like I'm putting the pieces together and helping the actors find, their moments and their characters and developing those things. But then when I switched to directing straight plays in 2022, I directed A Midsummer Night's Dream. I don't know why I thought I could do Shakespeare because I had never done any Shakespeare in any capacity, but it went really well. So,
Hey, I've been right there. I am not Shakespeare. I've never done Shakespeare. I've never acted in Shakespeare or whatever, but I was successful as being assistant director for Julius Caesar.
Nice.
So understand that completely. So.
Yeah, Midsummer was I think it's a good gateway play to Shakespeare.
And it's a fun show.
It's fun, yeah. And I knew that was my limitation, and so I spent a lot of time and energy making sure that I understood exactly all of the possible meanings of every single line. And we also did a pre-show lecture to make it a little bit more digestible for our audience, because that was the first Shakespeare play Town and Gown did in 31 years. So it's not something that our current audience is used to at all either. Sure. So we did a pre-show lecture where we had a map of all the characters, and one of our fairies also has a master's degree in classics from Notre Dame, and so she jumped in and led that pre-show lecture for us.
And she's in Stillwater?
Yeah, she was an attorney in Chicago briefly, and then she married an ophthalmologist, and they moved to Stillwater and started a practice here. So she actually sits on our board. Betsy Flood, she's the secretary. She's wonderful. But yeah, so she led a lecture, and we double cast Oberon and Theseus and Titania and Hippolyta, and then also Puck and Philostrate. So we knew that was going to add an extra layer of confusion for people. So we just we did headshots of every character and mapped them out on the wall in the gallery, and she sort of guided everyone through it, and that helped a lot with sort of soothing some of the Shakespeare anxiety that existed. And it was packed every single performance. There were at least 40 people listening to the pre-show lecture, so that was pretty cool to see. But I guess back to your original question, when I started doing plays, and it definitely changed my approach. I think I started emphasizing table work more and making sure that everyone was sort of on the same page about the vision for the show, and making sure that the actors and I are aligned in how they want to develop their character and how they want to grow into that. And it's been really lovely to sort of get to learn that part of it. I think in a space like Town and Gown, the way that we think about movement is pretty unique. And it's been a challenge actually transferring sort of my skill set to a theater like Gaslight, which is much more traditional. It's hard to tell actors you have to keep moving because people can't see you. Like you at any given time, the maximum of 50% of the audience can see your face. And so like the way that we move in this space is much, much different than I think people move in other theater spaces. And so to an extent, I think the fact that this has been my primary working space is certainly to my benefit. I think if I learned in a more traditional theater and then was trying to apply those skills to this space, it would be a much harder transfer. But yeah, I think I directed Doubt after Midsummer, Doubt, A Parable, and that one was particularly hard to stage because so much of the show takes place at a nun's desk, and if someone's sitting at the desk, then most of the audience can only see the back of their head. And so figuring out all of that was a fun and interesting challenge. But I think over time I've really grown more in terms of working with actors on developing characters and moving in this space through straight plays that I haven't really had the opportunity to address when I'm trying to do the cat herding that is involved in directing a big musical.
Very cool. So transitioning more into your musical background. So with a background in vocal music education and music theory, how has your musical training shaped your work in theater?
A lot. I think I probably care a lot more about making sure that the notes that are on the page of the score of a musical are all being sung and sung correctly and well, and that the singing is very musical. I think often we go to community theater productions and we walk away from them feeling like they were excellent and wonderful, but Max, the ensemble, is really carrying 2 parts whenever it's a dense score with 5 or 6 parts written originally. And so I try really hard to maintain the integrity of the score in a way that is, I think, a little bit more insistent than some directors and music directors tend to be. And I know that it's challenging for my casts to deal with that sometimes. But I think that certainly shapes it. And then the other thing is that if you just, in general, my actual favorite thing to do for a show is sound design. I love sound design. I love sound designing for plays in particular. I love the software and the QLabs and, making everything flow seamlessly, and choosing music that really suits the character of the play and having the freedom to do that with a straight play it's my favorite. I love it so much. So I think those are the 2 biggest ways, I would say.
Okay. So as a director in a musical environment, what is your process, or do you have a process for working with actors who may not have formal vocal training? Yeah.
I think that, when I lead a music rehearsal, I try really hard I'm not much of a pianist, but I am a really strong sight singer. And so I usually sing every single line, just down the line for them as many times as they need, or make reference recordings for them so that they can listen to their part in their car. And I try really hard to make the learning process of the music as straightforward and simple as possible. I never require people to know how to read music or, anything when it comes to casting. And then if we're talking about an actor who, is in this musical and maybe really struggles with matching pitch, something as basic as that, or really struggles with maintaining a steady beat in the show, I have a few tricks that I'll use, from a directorial perspective, to sort of mask or assist with that. I've actually had the pleasure of working with, I think, 3 deaf or partially deaf actors over the years in musicals specifically. And so finding ways to, if somebody struggles with keeping the beat, or they can't hear the accompaniment track well enough to hear where the beat is, finding ways to adapt the choreography so that they can always see the beat is something that I always try really hard to do. And then when it comes to pitch, I always try to find places where we can have fun spoken character moments and really just sort of turn up the knob on their like acting and characterization and make sure that the audience is going to latch on to something about their performance that is so good that they're not worried about the fact that this person isn't, Pavarotti. I think like that's usually my priority. And casting people like that correctly is also key. I think that there are some roles where having a perfect singer is not even close to the top priority than say other roles where it's required. Like I cast Legally Blonde this week. I can't do Legally Blonde with an Elle Woods that can't match pitch, or like even struggles with, like isn't even just like a very technically skilled singer. But there are other characters in Legally Blonde where I can totally do that. So just making sure that I'm casting in a way that is smart and sets everyone up for a successful performance is super important too.
I like that. So you are also a client manager at Interworks.
Yes.
Told you I've done a little research, which is a global data consultancy. That's quite a shift from the theater world. How do the two worlds intersect for you?
Oh, that's a really lovely question. So at Interworks, the interview process requires you to give a 10-minute presentation just on anything you want. And my presentation was called How My Master's Degree in Music Theory Prepared Me for the Real World. And then the second slide said it didn't, which got a lot of laughs. But it's not true. So what I talked about in that presentation was that my area of music is analysis. And specifically, I studied form and classical, like the classical era. So the musical structures and idioms that make up Mozart, Haydn, Beethoven. So it's really pattern recognition. I mean, fundamentally, that is what I studied in graduate school. That's what my very long thesis was about, was just recognizing patterns in music so that we can make, larger statements about what's happening in a piece of music. And so it is data. I mean, fundamentally, we are looking at and listening to pieces of data that we use to draw insights. And so that was sort of what I talked about in my interview for my job. I found out about my company because they were my IT support when I was at the McKnight Center, and they helped me through some tough times. And so I just liked the company. And they have a pretty non-traditional hiring structure. I'm actually, when I started there was another person there who had their PhD in music theory, and he was actually like in the technical side of things. I work in the sales side of things, but yes, that's sort of how I got, that was how I sort of presented it, is like, listen, I've worked with data. I have to have strong critical thinking skills in my line of work. And I think that there's some overlap there, and I sold them on it. So that was exciting. But I think now the overlap is that several of my coworkers do Town and Gown. Like one of my colleagues, his name is Aaron Carmichael. He's a data engineer there. He was the sound designer for A Midsummer Night's Dream. He would post in our music Slack channel every year. He composes these like EDM Christmas mixes that are super fun. And so I knew that he knew like composition software and stuff like that. And I had some music composed for my production of Midsummer and performed by a local string quartet, or a piano quintet. Actually, there was a pianist. And there was just some parts that I wanted to tweak and like do some pitch correction and other things with. And I didn't have the skills or software to do that. And so one day at work, I just went up to him and I was like, hey, I do this community theater thing and I could probably use your help. Can you come out tonight and see, if there's some way you can help me? And so he did. And then he proceeded to participate in every production besides 2 for the last 3 years. So he was Father Flynn in Doubt. He just got cast as Aaron Schultz in Legally Blonde. He was in the ensemble of The Producers. He was, I forget the name of the priest in Jekyll and Hyde, but he's been on stage. He's sound designed several shows, run tracks for shows, and is just, has really, like, the theater bug really bit him harder than I think I've seen it bite anyone before.
So it doesn't just intersect for you.
No.
You're making it intersect for other people.
Yeah, and I
Okay.
actually just cast one of our interns as Emmett in Legally Blonde as well.
So what you're saying is you need to transfer from sales to recruiting. And,
Maybe, yeah. But yeah, so that's been cool.
So yeah, you answered almost all of those questions in one shot. So that's great. So shifting gears again to current projects, you are currently directing 2 shows almost back on top of each other.
Yes. Yeah.
So let's first talk about Drowsy Chaperone at Gaslight Theater in Enid. So what excites you most about that show?
What doesn't excite me about the Drowsy Chaperone? I think it's nearly perfect. I love it so much.
It's one of my favorites.
I think it's definitely theater for theater lovers. And so that is an exciting component of it, is that it just feels very comfy. I love the character man in chair. I think having the narrator provide the commentary that he does throughout the show and watching him sort of unravel throughout is really, it's hilarious. I mean, everything that comes out of the character's mouth is just hysterical. But then on top of that, it's very heartfelt and you really grow to love that character throughout. And then I think it's, for everyone else, the people actually putting on the show, the Drowsy Chaperone, it is a blast. Like, the fun music, earworms, just silliness across the board. It really lets actors do stuff that they never get to do. I mean, it calls for bad acting at times, and that's really fun.
Fair, yeah.
Like, that's a fun thing to get to tell people, is like, do it worse. Like, I've actually had to tell my Janet that. I was like, you're acting this in a way that's very earnest, and I appreciate that. But yeah. like Jane Roberts, the character that is playing Janet, is supposed to be vain and just sort of self-obsessed, and I need you to inject a little bit of that into how you're approaching Janet, instead of making it so sort of like doing your best with the material that is pretty cheesy in the first place. So that's been really fun. But yeah, it's I think it's perfect. It's so much fun to put on.
And from what I've seen, it's an amazing cast. It looks great, and of course, again, it's one of my favorites, so I can imagine it's being great. So, looking at the flip side of that, talking about Legally Blonde here at Town and Gown, how are you approaching this show differently than Drowsy Chaperone?
In every possible way, I think. Like I mentioned, I'm music directing Drowsy. I'm not from Enid. I'm obviously, I said I'm from Stillwater, but I did once at the Gaslight Theater in 2023 and fell in love with the community there. I think that they are just wonderful. Everyone is so supportive and friendly and welcoming. I haven't encountered a place that's better to just like walk in the door and feel, so welcome to be there for an audition process. I genuinely, like, I came to auditions and enough of them come see Town and Gown shows and things like that like I came in and the stage manager was like, I'm so excited to meet you. Like, we're really glad you're here. And I, go to see the directing staff and they're like, I felt like a celebrity. It was wonderful. I was like, listen, I'm auditioning for you. But yeah, so I love the people there. And so I knew that they wanted some fresh faces on the director side of things. The head of the play selection committee was that stage manager, and then she's in the cast of the Drowsy Chaperone now, but Mary, so she really encouraged me to go ahead and apply, and so I did. But all of that said, it's a lot of the workings of the theater are very unfamiliar to me, and so I'm leaning a lot on my stage manager, who's been there for much longer and is wonderful, easily the best stage manager I've had the pleasure of working with. Shout outs to Heather once again. But yeah, so it's a small team. It's, I think I have 2 choreographers, Heather and me. and then a crew of 4 or 5 other folks, and then Gaslight has a lighting designer that works on every production and a technical director that handles a lot of the sort of sound setup and things. And so those people are sort of baked into the process, which is really nice, but it's a small team. And it's a small cast. It's 19, which for a musical is pretty small, I would say, in my experience at least. And so that's that production. It feels like a grassroots effort, sort of, I guess is the best way to put it. And then Legally Blonde, I found out that the minimum number of people you can get in the cast is 25. Like the absolute minimum. I ran all of the tracks a million times, trying to combine as many characters as possible in ways that made sense from an age and ethnicity and all of these perspectives, but the smallest it can be is 25. I cast 27. It will be my largest cast that I've worked with, but I like to keep my ensembles as small as possible because I want everyone invested. I want everyone to feel like what they are bringing is vital to the process.
Of course.
And so I want everyone to have stuff that they can like take strong ownership of and feel good about. And so that process, I have a bigger team. It's my stage manager, choreographer, music director, obviously, and then I have an assistant stage manager, and I have a props master, and I have a lighting designer, and I'm gonna do the sound design for it, but I'm certainly not running the board. So we'll have board techs, we'll have changers for all of the quick changes backstage. So it's a huge crew, and very big cast. Legally Blonde is also just like such a well-known name. Like audition turnout was way higher than it was for Drowsy, and this sort of like the talent is just different than what comes out for Drowsy. I think like we had a lot of incredible dancers in the Legally Blonde auditions, like just mind-boggling. So we're going to have a wonderful Greek chorus and group of really, really strong dancers. I think in terms of how I approach directing it, I think there will be, both of the timelines are about the same, but Legally Blonde is like 4 times as difficult to execute. Like the set pieces, everything flows in a much less structured way than it does in the Drowsy Chaperone. The Drowsy Chaperone is very much like monologue scene, monologue scene, monologue scene, monologue scene, and like then we're done. Whereas Legally Blonde is very fluid. And so, even in just a single, well, first of all, there's a song that spans 3 scenes, and it's called What You Want, and it's it's the second number in the show as well. Third number in the show. And so approaching movement on stage and coordinating all of the bodies is just a totally different beast than what you're dealing with in Drowsy, where you have 4 or 5 characters per scene, unless it's one of the big 11th hour numbers. And so yeah, there are substantial differences in how you have to think about the shows even coming together. I think Legally Blonde is just a much, much harder puzzle to solve, for sure.
Okay, so let me ask you an honest 2-part question.
Okay.
Number 1, why? Why would you do 2, as we've talked about here, completely different musicals, but 2 both in their own right complicated musicals right on top of each other at the same time?
That's a great question. I didn't set out to do that necessarily. It was sort of circumstantial. This is Town and Gown's 75th season, and so we're trying really hard to do. We've done Legally Blonde in the past. It was my second show at Town and Gown. It was 12 or 13 years ago, and it was a huge success. The first week sold out within an hour of tickets going on sale, and then the second week sold out by the end of the first week. Like people loved it. But when the play selection committee here at Town and Gown was putting the season together, there were just some challenges that came up. And so they called me. I didn't originally sort of set out to direct the season opener, but they called me and asked if I would. And normally I would have said no because of yes, the fact that I'd known that I was directing Drowsy and Enid for a very long time during this time period. And so I was trying to direct a play in April, at Town and Gown, but they asked, and I knew that this was a really important season for our theater. And so, I felt sort of honored that they trusted me with that task. And they wanted a big show. We didn't know what it would be at that time, but settled on Legally Blonde. And so I wanted to show up for Town and Gown during this time period. I think usually I take long breaks between directing, at least a minimum of a year, because it is so taxing, and especially because I'm driving an hour every night for Drowsy, it's additionally taxing. But I love both shows and I love both theaters, and so there's never going to be a point in my time. I'm not getting younger, like there's never going to be a time in my life that is going to be better for this.
Of course.
So
what's it like doing this, like going back and forth between one theater to the other? I know you haven't started rehearsals here yet.
Yeah.
But you're going to start rehearsals before that is going. So yes. What is all that like? What does your time frame look? I mean, what does your time management look like?
Yeah. So I tried to get as much done before Drowsy as possible. So I had the ensemble matrix for Legally Blonde built, so I knew what characters I would be casting how all of my ensemble would be doubled and things like that. And I had my schedule outlined and sent to my choreographer and music director for their scheduling and input for both shows before Drowsy started, weeks before auditions, so that I could get as much ahead of those things as possible. I built my crew for Drowsy over the winter of this year, and I've had my crew for Legally Blonde since November of 2024. So I knew who I would be working with and started having conversations with them throughout the process. And then, so I basically tried to get as much out of the way for both productions before Drowsy started, so that I could really focus on getting Drowsy standing before I had to really think much harder about Legally Blonde. I cast the dogs, I found we do a short play festival every year. Our short play festival is coming up on August 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. A Town and Gown, and so they have the theater for this time period. So secured an alternate rehearsal space for our initial Legally Blonde rehearsals, and set an audition date and told them that I would be gone from Drowsy those days, and just tried really hard to focus on Drowsy while up to this point. And then we had auditions at the beginning of this week, so Sunday and Monday and Tuesday, and for Legally Blonde. And so that was it was pretty jarring, to be honest, to come back to a run through on Wednesday night of Drowsy Chaperone after being in this Legally Blonde headspace for 3 days. But that show is already so independent already that I haven't had to. I didn't walk into a hot mess that I was just super stressed about. The show runs, it's running 3 minutes over right now, which 2 weeks out is kind of a miracle. And we're finishing up the set and all of the tech stuff this weekend, but I really like to be prepared. I hate going into a tech week or a final week of a show wondering if it's even gonna happen. It drives me nuts. And so one of the best compliments I've ever received from an actor was Renae, I know you don't have a lot of artistic training or things like that in theater, but one thing I can always say for your productions is that I've never been afraid of opening night, And so that's that was one of the best compliments I've ever received, probably in my life. So just making sure that I was giving Drowsy the treatment that it is required to get them to that point, so that once we got here, I could switch that focus to Legally Blonde was sort of the goal. And then we're starting music rehearsals the week between performances of the Drowsy Chaperone. So we'll do, Friday through Sunday, we'll perform Drowsy, and then Sunday night through Thursday, I'll be in Legally Blonde rehearsals, and then we'll go back and do Drowsy 2 more times before we close. So it's not a huge overlap. It's about a week of actual. The productions are happening at the same time.
Wow. Okay. So, not that your plate is, too full or anything like that, but looking ahead, is there any dream shows that you'd love to direct or perform in?
Well, the sort of running joke at Town and Gown right now is that there's one show that everyone wants to direct, but no one wants to direct because we all want to be in it. And that's Company. Like, it's perfect for this space.
Sure.
And we're what I would consider Town and Gown to be a singer's theater in many ways when it comes to musicals. I think, like, especially over the past 2 years, with our production of Jekyll and Hyde, with our recent production of Into the Woods, we've just had the most phenomenal voices in our productions. We've been very, very blessed with really strong singers. And so I think we all recognize that and recognize the challenge of a show like Company from a musical perspective. And we all really would love to see it happen. And I would love to direct it. It's my favorite musical, probably. But I really want to be in it. And and so no one wants to direct it because they want to be in it. And so sort of figuring out when that's actually going to happen has been fun. But so musical, I would say probably Company in terms of directing. If we're talking like shows that I would like to direct but have no real strong desire to be in, there really aren't a bunch of musicals. I think after Legally Blonde, I'm going to be done with musicals anyway for a hot minute. So I
would think so. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So I want to direct The Crucible, and I really want to direct God of Carnage. I think those 2 plays are the things that I would most like to do next, for sure.
You want to do them here?
Somewhere.
Okay.
Probably here. Yeah.
Okay.
I love the traveling. I've done a show at the Ponca Playhouse too, and I really like their community a lot as well. They're wonderful. I had just the best and smoothest time ever doing Sunday in the Park with George there. And I've never considered submitting there just because that was last summer, so it hasn't even been that much time. But maybe down the road that would be something that I'd be interested in. But at least for the next production after Legally Blonde, I think I want to do it locally just so I don't have to do the driving. I'll probably audition for more things in Enid or Ponca over the next few years, but...
When was the last time you were on stage acting?
April.
Okay. And what was that?
Crimes of the Heart.
Okay.
Yes. So from March to mid-April, I was rehearsing and performing Crimes of the Heart here at Town and Gown. And then May was when Drowsy started. So really 3 shows back to back in many ways. And I was Lenny, so it was a bigger part in the show. But it was really fun. It was so much fun. And great cast, great director. So
can't ask for much more than that.
No.
So. Okay, so in your mind, where do you see Oklahoma's community theater scene heading in the next few years? And what role do you hope to play in that evolution?
I think I can only really speak to sort of north central Oklahoma and, the Ponca, Enid, Stillwater theater scene. It's interesting. More and more, I'm seeing actors traveling for theater. I'm not the only one. There are 8 people from Stillwater in the Drowsy Chaperone cast and 2 people from Bethany in the Drowsy Chaperone cast. Just when we did Into the Woods, Jack, the baker, and Cinderella were all from Yukon and driving from Yukon to do those shows. So I think that one thing that I think that we're getting right in these 3 theaters is that we're picking shows that actors want to be in. And I hope that we continue that trend. I think that Town and Gown, more so than a lot of theaters, strikes, I think, an excellent balance of shows that our audiences want to see and are psyched for, and then also shows that the actors and directors want to be in. I think that's every community theater's struggle, sort of. But Town and Gown, from a funding perspective, has been entirely ticket sales and donor funded for its 75 years of existence. We got our first 2 grants in the last 3 years. So no grant funding, we have just ticket sales and donations. Yeah. So we have a very loyal, season ticket holder base. And we do 10 to 15 performances per production too. So, it's a small theater, 168 seats, but we do a really good job of sort of operating independently and choosing shows that keep our ticket holders coming back. And so I hope that we continue that here. But again, I think that the theaters in this part of the state are right now in particular are choosing shows that people really want to be in. And to the point that people are traveling from Oklahoma City and Tulsa to participate. And I hope to see that trend continue, because that elevates the quality of our shows whenever we have a larger casting pool to draw from. And we learn a lot from having other folks in, and they get to learn from us, and it's a nice exchange of ideas. So I hope that trend of sort of traveling for productions. We also, our board president was in Spamalot at the Pollard. One of my cast members in Legally Blonde, but she's done many shows out here, is in the upcoming Oklahoma Shakespeare production. I forget what they're doing, but Love's Labor's Lost, maybe. But yeah, so she's the Princess of France, I think, Sydney Waymeyer. But yeah, so I think we some of us travel to the city to do theater productions as well. But yeah, I like that. I've seen more of that over the last few years, and I hope it continues that way. What was the second part of your question? I forgot it.
No, you're right. What role do you hope to play in that?
Oh, well, I want to keep doing it. I want to keep. I think my dream future job would be to join with my colleague Aaron Carmichael, who, like I said, is a coworker and does data analytics. A passion side project of his has been building a data platform and analytics solution for Town and Gown, so that we can make more sort of like business-minded decisions and really understand like what people are buying tickets to see, what people are excited about, what the demographics of our ticket holders are, like all of those sort of things. So I think, working with him and another colleague, and maybe like venturing into the consulting space for community theaters is something that is really an exciting idea to me. So I think that's something that I would like to do in the next decade of my life, maybe at some point. Yeah. Very
cool. I like that. What you were just talking about with the whole, I call it talent share. We've got people from Oklahoma City coming out. There's people from out in the outer lying areas coming into, the city, Tulsa, Oklahoma City. That's kind of really what brought all of this podcast idea about. I was, performing. I performed primarily. I spent most of my time in Shawnee. I just over the last year or so transitioned into Oklahoma City. And so during Julius Caesar, I was meeting a lot of people that were coming in from a lot of different areas. And even they were, didn't understand, that there was so much in Oklahoma City. So they were getting opportunities. But we were learning there's a lot of talent outside of Oklahoma City. Mm-hmm. And when it comes to people getting recognized, people getting, as we all say, their story told, Oklahoma City and Tulsa is where everything's coming from. Mm-hmm. And so for the most part, if you're not there, nobody's going to know who you are. Mm-hmm. And so what I was realizing is that there's just as much talent outside of Oklahoma City as there is in it. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, exactly what you're saying. I performed the last few shows. I performed with people from Chickasha, people from, all these different places coming into Oklahoma City. And I thought, somebody needs to tell their story.
Yeah.
And so that's why I decided this is going to be a great idea, so that I can go out and see these people, meet these people where they're at. It's why I wanted to meet you here.
Yeah.
So that, I could be in their element, where they're comfortable, get them in the spaces where they work, and tell their story.
Yeah.
Because again, for the most part, if you're not performing in Oklahoma City on a big stage, people don't know who you are.
Yeah.
And a lot of times they don't even know who you are then. But so I really kind of thought this would be a great idea, and exactly what you're saying. I'm seeing that people coming out, people coming in. It's like this revolving door of exchange that is growing.
Yeah.
You're seeing that a lot more, and so I'm very happy that you want to continue doing that. All right, so as we taper down this interview, I always do this with every one of my guests, and I'm sure if you've listened to the podcast, you understand what's coming. We're going to wrap up with some curveball questions.
Sure, yes.
And so we're going to have a little fun. And again, just off the top of your head, just whatever. If your life were a musical, what would the opening number be called, and who would play you?
Ooh, what would the opening number be called? Oh, man. Probably Stillwater. And I think Caitlin Kanunin would be my choice for me. She was in the original Broadway cast of The Prom, and the original Broadway cast of The Bridges of Madison County. And she just kind of looks like me. So I'll go with that.
Hey. It's always good when you can make a comparison with a celebrity, right?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Okay. So you're directing a show, but your entire cast has been replaced by Muppets.
Sure.
Except one human actor. Who stays, and what show are you doing?
Okay. Well, I do this with every show that I direct. I always choose who isn't the Muppet.
Okay.
So that's pretty easy.
I was going to say, with music theory, I kind of figure you went with the Muppets thing. So, okay.
Sure, yeah. Let's see. There are so many good shows that I think could be applied to Muppetdom. Let's say I would love to do A Midsummer Night's Dream again with, like, a human Helena and everyone else is Muppets. I think that would be an interesting take.
Okay.
If like, let's say The Crucible, since I said that that's a show that I really want to direct, I think The Crucible, but I think John Proctor would probably be the human because he's boring. Yeah.
I think it's the first time I've ever heard someone say John Proctor is boring.
Well, I just think he's I don't find him very interesting. But anyway, and then I think, well, we talked about it with Crimes of the Heart all the time. There was always a big debate, actually, of which of the characters in that show would remain a human. I think we settled on Lenny being the human, and everyone else being a Muppet around her. But the idea of, like, these Pulitzer Prize winning dramas being done by Muppets.
Oh yeah, I think that's the hilarious
great.
part. Yep. Yeah, exactly. Okay, what's the most unexpected thing that's ever happened to you during a live performance?
I've been very lucky. I should knock. There's no wood around me, but I would knock on it if there was. I've been very lucky that I haven't had like significant flubs or slip ups, but during the final performance of Always Patsy Cline, I just forgot my second to last entrance. I was supposed to walk on stage with a suitcase and wave goodbye to Luis, the other character, and walk off stage. It was very quick. It really didn't need to, I didn't need to be there. It was just like a visual addition. But yeah, the last performance, it's also right before Luis talks about Patsy's death, and we had such a good time putting on the show, and I was the same age that Patsy was when she died, when I did that production, and she and I are the same height and just generally sort of similar human beings, I guess. She's a much better singer than me, but yeah, so I was really in my head about it and really sad and just totally forgot, just started changing. So it's not like I could have run on and remember, I was already in my
well, that would have added a new flavor to the show.
It would have, yeah. But so that was probably the most unexpected. I think I had one time I accidentally had somebody swipe my chest on stage, and it happened in front of a group of my friends from high school. It was during Into the Woods. I was one of the stepsisters. We were blind at this point, and yeah, so somebody sort of elbowed my boob, and and all my friends from high school saw it and started laughing. And it's the moment where the witch is like, has realized that Rapunzel has been killed and is like having this sad dramatic moment, and like all these like we were, you know, out of college at that point, but like young adults are just snickering in the front row, and I was like,
you become 12 all of a sudden.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so
yeah.
I get it. Okay, so last question, or last of the curveball questions anyway, and I'm sure you've heard this one before. I love it. It's a crowd favorite. What is your go-to karaoke song?
Zombie by the Cranberries.
Love that song. Oh, I love that song. Awesome. Okay, so as we're wrapping this up, let's give out a little bit of information. So, Drowsy Chaperone, what are the dates?
They are July 18th through 20th, and then 25th and 26th.
Okay, and if people want tickets, how do they get tickets?
They go to gaslighttheater.org or Google the Gaslight Theater in Enid if that is not the website, but I'm pretty sure that's the website. And they can buy tickets online, or they can call their box office.
Okay, and then Legally Blonde?
Legally Blonde, ooh, this is a real test. I believe it runs September 24th through 28th, October 1st through 5th, and October 7th through 12th, 8th through 12th. So 15 shows in late September, early October at Town and Gown Theater in Stillwater, and that's townandgowntheater.org.
I believe that is correct.
Yes, that is correct. Yes, I'm the webmaster. I should really know that.
Oh, wow.
www.townandgowntheater.org. Yes, and it's the word and spelled out. And yes,
and all of those addresses, all of those dates, everything will be in the show notes, so everybody can find
wonderful.
those.
Thank you.
So you don't have to go hunt for those. We'll have those available for everybody. All right, Renae, thank you for being a part of this. This has been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I hope you've enjoyed it as well. We'll be following along with everything that you're doing, and I hope to see your name everywhere.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right. So everybody else that's listening at home, thank you for your time. Thank you for giving us a little bit of your slice of life. We hope that you've enjoyed the show. But most importantly, as you leave here today, continue to support the arts.
Oklahoma on stage.